Hey everyone, this is May Lee. Welcome to the May Lee Show. Another episode for you. In isolation. Yes, getting very familiar with this. I don't know how you guys are doing, but I'm doing okay-ish. It's up and down. It's up and down for sure. It's sometimes day by day, sometimes hour by hour. And it's really the uncertainty and the unknown that I think gets to all of us because we just don't know when this is all going to end, or at least, get a little bit back to normal. I think honestly, the outcome of this, we won't ever get back to everything the way it was exactly, of course. But it is that unknown and that uncertainty. And so that's been tough. This episode, I really want it to be a more positive episode about things that are happening in our world that are good stories, people coming together and helping each other out. So that's going to be the bulk of this episode. But I do need to get a couple of things out of the way because I think I've been holding off talking about something that happened last week that really caused quite a ruckus, caused a lot of controversy, actually, and that is Andrew Yang. I think probably a lot of you know by now that he had written this op-ed in the Washington Post responding to all the xenophobia against Asians. And if you guys have been listening to my podcasts and the show for weeks and weeks and weeks, I've been talking about this issue, as have many others in the Asian community here in the States as well as around the world. And that is not stopping. That is continuing to accelerate. We keep on hearing about more incidents, and it bothers me no less every day when I read these stories and hear about these stories. It actually, that's part of the reason why it gets to me, and it affects my mood. Rightly so. But anyway, Andrew Yang in this op-ed, was talking about how Asians, if we want to combat this, we have to show more of our Americanness, which meant going out and volunteering and donating and wearing red, white, and blue. And so he basically was suggesting, it seemed in this op-ed, he was suggesting that Asians had to prove themselves as Americans through action, which obviously was not a great thing to say. We all had problems with that. Well, at least most of us had problems with that. A lot of people came out with heavy criticism against this op-ed and against Andrew Yang and what he said. He also mentioned that in history, there's evidence of people doing this, like the Japanese Americans who signed up to join the military during World War II to fight for America, to prove their Americanness. So neglecting to then also speak about the 140,000 Japanese Americans that were interned here in this country. So it was not a very well written op-ed. I don't think it was very well thought out. And so Neck Shark, Benny Luo, he was able to get an exclusive interview with Andrew and it just came out on Neck Shark, where he answered several questions, I believe via email. But, great for Benny and Neck Shark for trying to have him explain what his motivation was and why he said the things he did. I mean, the good thing is, I'll give him credit. He did say that I realized that the op-ed fell short. I did not mean to suggest that we as Asian Americans needed to do anything more to prove that we were Americans. We've been here, we belong here, and we continue to be part of the fabric of America. He goes on to explain that it's patriotism. Patriotism means like things like volunteering and acts of kindness, and we should be doing that and taking a leading role in that. Well, then that's what he should have said. But I'm not going to harp on this because I think enough people have come out and talked about this and written their own op-eds in opposition to what he said, and so we've heard enough of that. So I don't think you need to hear me go on and on about this. This is what I will say. I've always felt that because we have such little representation in areas like politics, that Andrew Yang all of a sudden being front and center as a Democratic candidate was such a surprising, shocking, unexpected development. And the fact that he was able to make it for as long as he did was also something that was unexpected. And I think a lot of people in the Asian American community, it gave them hope, right? That this was possible. For me, honestly, I had reservations because he was always touting himself as this Asian man who, his quote, right? His line was always the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. And I, from the beginning, I had a problem with that because I thought he was playing up the stereotype. And by doing so on such a public platform, I just didn't think served the Asian community very well and the Asian identity because it played up that stereotype. And so when this op-ed came out, for me, it was doubly disappointing because he was, I guess to me, it just showed that it was like we have to cower and kowtow and again, prove ourselves or prove our worth to the majority. And so that's where I thought the Andrew Yang phenomenon had its flaws, okay? I commend him for doing what he did and going out there and giving his best shot, and I thought that was really courageous. But I feel like we as a community, I think we have to be very careful. We have to be very careful in thinking that one person represents us all, because that's not the case. We know that, right? Well, you should know that. One person cannot represent an entire community that's so diverse within the community, right? So I think that's the mistake that was made. And so he took a very big misstep with this op-ed. And so therefore it just brought down sort of an entire sort of image that a lot of people had painted. And that was a mistake. It was a mistake on his part, but it was also, I believe, hard for the Asian American community to kind of swallow. And that's why it's sort of, I think it was so shocking when people read this op-ed. To me, I wasn't that shocked. I mean, I was kind of pissed. I wasn't that shocked though. So that's enough of that. That's my take on it. So again, I'm just going to repeat. I think the lesson in this is that we need to build up more leaders and people who are willing to lead and step forward and step out, right? To be different voices, diverse voices, not generic, not one voice, but diverse voices so that the broader public can hear that, yeah, we have common interests, but we also have differences and we need to hear from different representatives within the community. Make sense? I hope so. Anyway, that's how I feel. That's enough about Andrew Yang. Okay, let's go to the positive stuff. All right, so for me, the way I've been trying to keep my optimism going, or at least my mood, because believe me, I've been going to some dark places because of all of this. So I started the 21-day meditation, the free program that was being given out by Oprah and Deepak Chopra. I started that program. I'm on day 14, so I do that every morning, and that helps. It gets me kind of set for the day. It might only last for an hour and then I'll go to a dark place, but at least it's something that I'm trying. I'm trying to practice gratitude. I'm working out because I need that physical activity. And then I'm doing stuff that I haven't done in a while. For instance, okay, don't judge me for this. I'm Korean American and I love my Korean and Asian food, but I don't necessarily like making it. But because I'm in isolation and because I'm not going to restaurants, I actually pulled out my rice cooker for the first time in, I don't remember the last time I used it, maybe 2 years ago. I have no idea. It literally was collecting dust. I finally pulled it out because I had, gotten some rice as, sort of my supplies. And I started making rice and I was like, dang, this is good. So I'm eating rice like all the time now. It's great. Anyway, it makes me happy because I feel like, wow, see, I'm doing something that I normally would never have done had I not been in this situation. So, you got to just kind of keep up, maybe different habits or start different habits or try something new. Sometimes at night, man, I don't know if I'm divulging too much. Oh, who cares? Sometimes at night I'll crank up the music and I'll just dance, right? I'll just dance because I just feel like dancing helps me physically sort of like get my energy going, but then also the music is, it's definitely therapeutic. That's why I love that DJ D Nice on Instagram, who's been doing almost like daily and nightly DJ sets on Instagram. And it's just his way of giving some love to the world. So I love seeing all of these efforts that are taking place by normal, regular people, but then also well-known people trying to just do things that will uplift people's spirits, right? John Krasinski, is that his name? John Krasinski, the comedian, actor. He's doing a weekly show called Some Good News, and that's, definitely getting a lot of play. And so, we're all doing our best to try to distract ourselves a little bit, to put ourselves in a better mood, to survive, right? And we got to do it together. So again, like I said, that's why this episode, I wanted to focus on good things that people are doing. And, within the Asian community, NextShark has been doing a great job trying to follow, different efforts being made by the Asian community. There's Vietnamese families in the Czech Republic. They banded together to sew face masks during the shortage, because that's obviously happening everywhere. Just recently, the Committee of 100, which is a lot of influential Chinese Americans within this very exclusive organization, they have raised $1 million so far to fight COVID-19. This was a big one. Joe Tsai, the billionaire owner of the Brooklyn Nets and co-founder of Alibaba, he donated thousands of ventilators and face masks to New York hospitals. So here, he and his wife teamed up with the Chinese government and donated 2.6 million surgical masks, 170,000 goggles, and 2,000 ventilators to hospitals in New York City. And we know that New York City is really suffering from COVID-19. So that was an enormous donation. CEO Nikesh Arora, CEO of Palo Alto Networks, Inc., he said he's going to forfeit his salary of $1 million to save his employees and company during this crisis. So I love it when I see leadership like that, right? Because the corporate world often is seen as very greedy. I mean, oftentimes for good reason. But in this crisis, people are starting to really step up and realize that they have to make some sacrifices to help others. So I really like that story. There was another story, Asian-owned nail salons across America. They're making masks and donating supplies. So, this is the way that people are coming together. Private citizens, normal people, because we all understand that this is something that nobody has gone through. And this is something that in history, we have never seen the likes of this. So it is bringing out compassion and the humanity, right? And the acknowledgement that we are all in this together. So that's why in this episode today, I'm interviewing a couple friends of mine, people I know who are doing their part to try and help in any way they can. So my first guest is a friend of mine. I've known her for many, many years. Her name is Peri Donch. She is in the fashion business and she has her own label, Peri the Label. And she's always been into conservation and environmental, sort of issues. So her line is all about eco-friendly fashion. And so she's always been doing that on a very modest level. She's not some huge label, but she's been plugging away. But she decided that, there was she knew, just like all of us, that there was a shortage of masks. Not the N95 ones. Of course, she can't make those, but she wanted to help in some way, especially those who really don't have the resources to even get their hands on a mask and who are the most vulnerable, like the homeless, the elderly, homeless shelters, things like that. So she took it upon herself to start making masks, and it has taken off. So she joins me now from her house.
Hi, Maylee. I am good.
Peri,
Fun time.
listen, I had just said that you are a really good friend of mine who started this amazing project. So you got to tell me from the beginning, because I've been following it since the beginning, because we're friends, right? You decided, because you're in the fashion industry, you just decided, okay, I'm going to contribute somehow. I'm going to try to make these masks because I know sewers in the fashion district of LA. And let's just kind of start making these masks so that I can donate them. So tell me how that all evolved.
So I think it was like a week into all of this. I had been furloughed by a couple of jobs. I worked freelance for 4 brands. Yep. And I was like, oh, well, I'll make masks. Let me, like literally myself. And I, reached out to the Midnight Mission. Yep. And I said, I'd like to make masks for you. I really love the Midnight Mission. I love everything they do. I volunteer there when possible. And they reached out.
We should say, Peri, that the Midnight Mission, for people who aren't from LA, it is a homeless shelter. It provides a lot of different services for the homeless in and around downtown LA. So yeah. Okay.
So it serves 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yep.
And it could be anywhere from 500 people to 1,500. Mm-hmm. They have 100 employees and then 250 residents between men and women.
Okay.
So he called and he said, yes, we would love to take any mask that you can make, but I don't think that you could make all of what we need. And I said, well, how many is that? And he said 350. And I was like, oh yeah. I don't think I could sew those myself.
Right.
While I'm at home every night, like, oh, I'll just sew masks. So I pull up the next day to my sewing contractor in downtown LA.
Yep.
He walks across the street and he says, look at what I'm making. And I said, awesome, which was a mask. So I go upstairs and we have this conversation. I said, I need your help. I volunteered to donate masks. Will you help me? He said, no problem.
Yep.
So that night I came home and I put a post on Facebook and Instagram saying, this is what I'm doing. And people just started donating.
Yeah.
And it was so organic. And we got like $1,000 in one night. And then up to $2,500. Now, each mask costs $2.50 to sew. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't include all of the materials, but we're working that out. And so we donated, this is Tuesday. Last Monday, Tuesday, we donated $350 to the mission.
Amazing.
Then the next day, we donated another $300 to an old folks home, residential home in Silver Lake, 300 units. They were very happy to have them. And I was like, oh my God, we might have too many masks. Next thing you know, I had kind of reached out to the Union Rescue Mission too. And I was like, maybe they need some. And they're like, we do. Now the Union Rescue Mission has between 500 and 1,500 people come through their doors a day.
Wow.
And that morning, somebody had sent me a post saying that one of their staff members was in the hospital with COVID.
Okay.
So I was like, oh my God, we need to do something for them as well. They they're like, well, we need between 500 and 15.
Jeez.
Because nobody can walk in here without a mask on. That's what their whole thing is.
Okay.
So then a couple of the brands I work with and one of the stores I work with, I was feeling like we were running out of money to make them, all donation based. And both of them were like, yes, we'll do a 1-for-1. So they're selling to their customer and their customers are providing
so donating one mask for every mask sold. Yeah. Which is great, exactly. Which is amazing.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So it's just blowing up. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll put them on my site too. And somehow yesterday afternoon, somebody posted it on GQ.com, where to buy your mask.
I know, Peri, I have to say, when I saw that link on Facebook and Instagram for you, I was so over the moon because I was like, wow, this is because it's highlighting what ordinary people are doing in this crisis. The idea that we all have to step in and step up and do something because the need is so overwhelming. So what has happened since that came out?
The great thing is, oh my God, I have 500 sales on my website in one day. And I literally just relaunched my website like the last week. I've been having someone work on it and I'm like, can we put these up? And she's like, yes. So I'm kind of a one-man band and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but whatever. I mean, everybody's going through that. Everybody's going, we've never done this before.
Right.
Let's do what we're doing. And I'm hoping that consumers will kind of give us a break. Like, okay, I'm not getting it in a day. I might get it in a couple of days.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
of course. The really great thing about it that I'm finding so inspirational is the fashion industry which can be very competitive. Everybody's pulling together. Yeah. Everybody's supporting everybody. There's so many brands downtown. There's enough room for everybody to do it. Nobody's like, well, it's mine. Every single person or every single brand that has the means to do it is doing it.
And I love the fact that everybody is like reinventing themselves to a certain extent, right? And repurposing what their skills are and, what they were doing. So they're taking that knowledge and that skill base to try and contribute, which is really, when else would you see something like this happen? That's why this is these are dark days for us, but at the same time, you're seeing such incredible humanity.
Absolutely. And I mean, I have that neighbor downstairs that's 100 years old.
Yes.
I've kept my distance. In the beginning, she was like, well, come in for a glass of wine. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think that's wise. But so I was talking to her just the other day and she said, now remember, she's 100. She's like, I've never seen anything like this in my entire life.
Yeah.
That's
incredible.
A lot.
That's a lot.
Remember, she's lived through World War II.
Yep.
Korean War, Vietnam War,
the
depressions, everything. I mean, she has seen a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, can we say something about the president?
You can say whatever you want. We can say whatever we want on this podcast.
Even when he got voted and she was like, never in a million years would I have thought it was him.
Yeah. Well, now we're seeing the results of what bad leadership can do. And therefore, again, my point being, because the leadership has been so bad and the direction has been so bad and so misguided, that's why people like you and other people in the private sector and ordinary people are having to step in and help out. And, I'm hoping, and Peri, we've talked about this, I'm really hoping that coming out of this, that this is going to stick. This kind of attitude of trying to help each other is really going to stick. And, it be lasting.
I'm hoping, same thing. I'm hoping that people realize that they don't have to work. They don't have to drive to work 5 days a week. Maybe your boss will now let you telecommute, like half the week. Will lower the pollution. I mean, so much great stuff could come out of this.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that everybody stays super mindful, which I think they will, because you can see stuff now. The air is so clear.
Oh my gosh. I know. It's incredible. It's incredible. The air is clean. Nature is like, blooming and it's reviving itself. And, it goes to show that nature has the ability to heal itself if it's given a chance. Right. So let me ask you this, Peri, before we finish. For you yourself, I mean, I'm sure this has been such a gratifying, fulfilling, inspirational moment for you. Never would you have ever thought that you would contribute in this way at a time like this. So tell me what you're getting out of all of this and what you are hoping for not just for yourself, but even for your business and, whatever else comes out of this for you?
Part of the reason why I felt like I needed to do this for the homeless population and all that is that I believe that you have to start in your own backyard.
Yep.
Because then when those people that you're helping feel like you've given them a sense of respect and they are present, then they can go out and do it and do it and do it and do it. It's like that old commercial way back in whenever, like, you tell two friends and so on and so on and so on.
Yep. Yep.
Same sort of thing. So, I mean, for my business,
who would have ever thought? No, Peri, who would have ever thought? Yeah, who would have ever thought you'd be making masks, right? I mean, your clothing line is about eco-friendly, designs and dresses and things like that. But it's amazing how life can turn on a dime like this. And you've taken the opportunity to help and use your skills in this time of crisis. And so that's why I wanted to, talk to you and highlight that. So, okay. So tell people how they can get a mask from you if they want. And again, you're still continuing to make the masks, sell them, but also donate, correct?
Yeah. Oh, well, the bigger foundation of the whole thing is the donation. Yeah. So we have 3 outlets right now. One to get masks. One is, there's my website, which is perithelabel.com, PERI, thelabel.com.
Yep.
There's the other boutique that I work with, which is treehousela.com, and it's HAUS.
Yep.
And then there's the other one, Whimsy and Rose, one of the brands I work with. Mm-hmm. And we all have a donation base in there. Okay. So whatever you buy from, we're continuing to make more masks because we only delivered so far 500 to the Union Rescue Mission. They need more. The Midnight Mission is asking for more. So yeah, and then, they're fashionable, I guess.
They are, especially.
Are we going to, is this going to become a fashion statement? And I'm like, I hope not. Just because it's like, let's not
yeah. Well, but there are those fashionistas out there who want their masks to be very hip and cool. So,
they'll be all studded and all
people are blinging out their masks, but you know what? As long as people are being safe and, practicing caution, and that's the most important thing. Yeah. So, Peri,
and one last thing I just wanted to say was, these are not the ones that are to be used in the hospitals. Right. These are just for distance and be protected.
Yes. No, I'm glad you said that. And as we all know, that we're being told now that we should be wearing masks when we head out.
Yeah.
Whether that be a scarf or one of your masks or something else. But we all know that, and we should be practicing that for sure until this is all over. But Peri, I adore you, and I'm so, so proud of you that you've done this. I'm in such support of what you're doing, and so keep on doing what you're doing. I'm glad you were able to talk to me about this, so more people will hear about it. But I'll see you at we do these Zoom happy hours once in a while with the girls, so I'll see you very soon. Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye. Bye, Peri. Bye. Okay, now I'm going to turn to the restaurant industry, and as you all know, the restaurant industry is taking a giant hit because of this crisis. Clearly, because none of us are going to restaurants. We're all staying at home. So big and small, no matter what kind of size of restaurant, they're all hurting. And imagine all the people who are working at the restaurants. Some of the statistics that I've pulled up, it's pretty incredible. The restaurant industry employs more than 15 million people in this country. Over 600 million food and drinking establishments exist in the U.S. So we're talking about a lot of people that are affected directly by this, but indirectly, right? You got to think about all the suppliers and all the sort of ancillary businesses that support restaurants. So we're talking about just millions upon millions of people affected and businesses. And of course, the fear is that a lot of these establishments might not make it through this crisis. So what's great to see, though, is that in this crisis, we're seeing people step forward in the restaurant business. They're trying to keep people employed. They're trying to do their best and pivot. And so I decided I wanted to talk to two really good friends of mine who are in the business. They are the founders of Wahoo's Fish Tacos. Now, if you guys don't know what Wahoo's is, you're missing out, man. This is Mexican food with a Brazilian and Chinese twist. And three brothers, Chinese Brazilian brothers, started this 30 years ago. Lee and Wing Lam are two of the brothers, and they've become good friends of mine. And they join me now to talk about what's going on and how they're trying to support not only their restaurants, but other restaurants and people in the healthcare industry as well. So they're doing a lot of good. Hey, Wing and Ed, welcome to the Maylee Show. I'm so glad you guys could join me via Zoom.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, listen, let me start. Hey, Ed, I'm going to start with you. You know why? Because as you know, I had done an interview with you a couple months ago for the podcast, right? And we were talking about how you guys started the business and the history of Wahoo's and, and then now what you were trying to do to help new chefs and new restaurateurs get off the ground. I mean, you were named like the restaurant whisperer. And then all of a sudden, boom, global pandemic hits. So everything changed. We didn't run the episode yet. I really want to, but I decided to get you guys on to talk about what's going on now. So Ed, how has it been for you guys and Wahoo's? I mean, like I just said, every restaurant has been hit. What's going on with you guys?
Well, for us, we had to adopt to, being takeout only. Obviously, that's the mandate in California, which is rough. But, our team has been able to pivot. But the problem lies is that, you have to shorten our hours.
Yep.
I think we're open 12 to 7. Unfortunately, we have laid off a lot of our crew, like every restaurant has. So we are surviving enough, not making any profits. But we're having to deal with our main things right now, not only survive, but take care of our employees the best we can, all of them. So navigating through unemployment, navigating through getting them food, so like rice, beans, tortilla, chicken. So we're trying the best we can to kind of just shore up ourselves and still working with the other restaurants outside and seeing what else we can do. Yeah. But our main focus is, to try to keep our employees sort of safe the best we can.
Wing, let me turn to you then. You guys have been doing this for 30 years, right? And very successfully. But I can't imagine that you've ever seen or experienced anything like this in your 30 years in this business.
No, it's kind of like caught everybody by surprise because you kept saying, "Oh, it's not going to happen to us," right? But as soon as I think the turning point is when the NBA stopped playing.
Yeah.
That Wednesday was like, oh. And then literally things were beginning to slow down, but that just turned everything.
Yeah.
That Wednesday, by Thursday, Friday, we're like, oh my God, what happened?
Yeah.
I mean, you saw just like everything stopped, the traffic, the businesses, and then you had this massive trickle down effect because we had friends that had just come in from New York that we were hanging out with. They're like, what are they talking about? This is not going to happen in California. Yeah. And then next day we're like, you better get home now because you're not going home otherwise. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It did come to a dead standstill. And so obviously then when people were asked to stay home, clearly restaurants were one of the first to be hit because nobody was going and there was that fear. So Ed, you guys obviously had to make a dramatic pivot just like everyone else did. And, some restaurants just closed down because they just couldn't handle it. Others decided, okay, let's do a takeout business. So you guys, kind of already were doing that. So was that an easier transition for you? And how are you handling that in terms of now, trying to serve the public as well as your employees? Like you said, you're trying to help them out. What happened there with your pivot?
Well, we're very fortunate that we're fast casual. So most fast casual all been able to pivot. I mean, we're already doing takeouts anyway, but but it reversed pressures. I think Wing will be more clear about. It's about 10% of our business now. It's obviously 100% of our business.
Yeah.
But so we were prepared because we normally did this all the time. but not as much as we do now. It's the other companies, the other restaurants that did not, never really their business was not a takeout concept, and that's the ones that are shutting down because they just can't do it.
Right.
Higher end, that's the ones that are being hard hit, harder than us, which is I can't even imagine how if we can't survive it. I'm sure that the higher ends guys are really squirming right now.
Right.
So
Right.
we were able to just again change our model. It's tough because our crew is running really lean. You got Mingo working with our CFO and our district managers, always tweaking on a weekly basis to see, what other adjustments can we make, to survive.
Yeah, yeah. And what I like though that you guys are doing, and I'm following you guys on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, is that you're also trying to pull in other small guys and trying to help them out in terms of pivoting. And so you're doing takeout with them and trying to help them sort of reshape their model. And I mean, it's like trying to build a plane while it's taking off, isn't it? I mean, it's total chaos in that way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the guy that's really doing a great job is Dean Kim over OC Baking. He actually pulled 6 or 7 restaurants together. He opened his bakery. The city of Orange been amazing to work with him. So he was able to open. I don't think he has a permit necessarily, but they worked with him, made sure that he was able to open the door. So he's got 5 or 6 chefs in there that would probably not be able to survive, period, because to try to keep a crew together as an independent restaurant, that's even harder. So Dean with OC Baking is he pulled together, called a couple of friends, and they're all there working. It's like I think it's 12 to 2, and then he reopens 5 to 8.
Wow.
I got to tell you, Dean is super giving. Working with the hospitals too. So it's a great group of guys working there together at the bakery.
Yeah. And a lot of them, or most of them, they're Asian American chefs and restaurateurs, right?
Yeah. You got others too. You got Tariq from Crema. You got John Park from Toast, Sachi from Adia. But you also have Max. Max is from Sessions. So it's not just Asians. The thing is about the restaurant industry, they're really pulling together. It's really amazing how they're really rallying with one another.
Yeah.
But Dean is sort of like the guy that started all this. But John, of course, has been working with hospital even before really started kind of getting deeper into this, and now every restaurateur is pitching in. So it's amazing.
Well, Wing, let's talk about the fact that also you guys and others are trying to provide for healthcare workers and making deliveries to hospitals and to other, facilities. So tell me about that aspect of what you guys are also trying to do in light of the crisis that you're facing, but you're also trying to help others in that way.
Well, we kind of started with our friends, one of our distributors, Pacifico Beer. Teresa and I were talking about how do we help each other. And I said the on-premise business, which is us, we're basically selling almost no alcohol.
Yeah.
The off-premise, which is the supermarkets and the big boxes, they can't keep up with it, right? So we said, well, maybe there's a way for us to help each other. Maybe you can get some food from us that we can deliver to the distribution center. So that's how it started.
Okay.
So once we started making a few of those deliveries, we had a little bit of work. And then we said, well, let's see what happens if we take a little bit of the profits that we made from these deliveries, which is not a whole lot, but then we can maybe do some deliveries to the local hospitals. So we went to a few clinics in Long Beach Memorial, and that took a whole life of its own because they were even more appreciative than the drivers. Because we came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting coverage in it with the radio station partnership with K-Rock, KLOS, and all that, which in turn got more hospitals, more churches, more businesses saying, hey, how do we help you? Provide food to the hospitals. How do we provide to the shelters? So it's one of this is we're all pitching in because at one point or another, when we were fully in operation, we were doing 100% donations. So we're not in that position anymore.
Right.
So we said, hey, church, businesses, how do we team up together so we can cover our basic?
Yeah.
So now, like this week, I'm going to, make 2 or 3 more deliveries for different hospitals, different shelters, and it's all teamwork. And we're finding supplies. And like I said, Ed's friends, James with the donuts, or these guys with the pies, or Dean with the bread, how do we help each other? So when we show up, there's tacos, there's, bread, there's sweets, there's all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the whole thing, is about teamwork.
Yeah.
And we're all trying to plug each other. So it's not us, look at me, it's look at us as an industry, what we're doing to kind of keep the community going.
And this is what I love about this effort, is that everybody is trying to help each other and bringing their skills to the table, and then, trying to figure out how can this all come together to work to benefit others. And also, you're trying to help yourselves too. Let's be honest, you guys are trying to keep business afloat too, just like everyone else. You have to make some living, at least even break even. A friend of mine who I just talked to earlier in the show, she's in the fashion business, right? So she's making masks, but she can't donate everything, right? She's got to at least break even. So we want to be realistic about that. As much as charity is great, but this is a case of also surviving, but surviving together, which is what is beautiful about what's happening right now.
Yeah, when you talk about your friend, look at what we came up with.
I know. Hey, the mask. I love the Wahoo's mask. So tell me the story about how that happened, because this was somebody who was not in the mask making business, obviously.
No, not at all. So it turned out our friends at Amerimark, which is just on the other side of the freeway from me, we needed banners. That's their main business. They make banners, tents, and whatever.
Okay.
And I said, hey, can we get some open for takeout signs? And they're like, well, we don't have anybody really working, so give me a couple of days and I'll get some people in here.
Okay.
So when I went over there to pick up our banners 2 weeks ago, they were making masks for the employees, because if they had to work, they might as well be safe.
Right.
And they said, hey, can I get you a couple of masks? I'm like, sure. And I remember the first day I came back to the office, Ed, Mingo, the entire office staff was like, what the hell are you doing? I mean, you're scaring people with your mask. I'm like, hey, we're just trying to be safe, because I'm the one going out and making deliveries. So I got to wear a mask anyway.
Right.
So what started out as something kind of more goofy, all of a sudden, when Carrie made the ones with our logo on it, he posted it. I gave one to Dean at the bakery, because again, he's the same thing. He's dealing with the public. So last Monday, literally a week ago, Dean and I posted our photos, on social media with our masks.
Yep.
By Wednesday, Carrie was able to hire almost his entire staff back to work.
Wow.
And by Friday, he was running full production.
Oh,
so
my
instead
gosh.
of the sheets, instead of printing banners or whatever the machines are, they're printing masks.
Wow.
So the chief of police, John Lewis, saw it. He ordered 300 of them on Friday.
Right.
And the city of Orange County, because they're doing all the people that are out and about, they need masks. So I'm pretty sure now, we laughed 2 weeks ago, pretty sure all of Ed's counterparts, they all need masks.
Right. Right.
So they need 20, 30, or 40 for their crew.
And again, this is an example of how people have had to pivot very quickly in light of this crisis. And because of that, they're actually employing people, re-employing, and even hiring more people because of this. And that I couldn't think of a better outcome in light of this dark time that we're living in right now. Hey, Ed, let me ask you this. Because of we're all going through this. Nobody is not affected by this crisis in one way or another. So I would imagine that for you, especially since you were, before this crisis started, you were helping restaurants get off the ground and become successful. And now you're helping them through a crisis. What are you thinking and kind of going through as you're trying to wade through this crisis in terms of this business? And what do you think the outcome is going to be? I ask you this because David Chang, the famous chef, restaurateur of Momofuku and, all the Netflix shows, he did an interview for the New York Times very recently where he was really scared. He was saying that the restaurant landscape is going to change forever. He doesn't think it's ever going to be the same. What he fears is that the little guys, a lot of them will disappear, and that will just change the landscape of every city and town, take away the character, of cities and towns, because these boutique, small, independent restaurants will be gone. It's a little bit of a dismal view, but I think he was trying to be a little bit more realistic about the possibilities of outcome. What do you think, Ed?
Well, I think he's correct. Unfortunately, he's correct. I feel really bad, but I see the view as, there's going to be a lot of restaurants falling out. I feel really bad for all the restaurants that have opened the last year, for instance, because it takes a year or so to start making a profit. So you're getting to that zone where you can make a little bit of money. And all of a sudden, boom, this thing came so sudden. Besides the NBA, I mean, there's that changes where we went from you could be inside the restaurant, 50 people or less, separated by 6 feet. And then to Monday morning, pivot one more time. So we went through all that. The only thing I disagree with David is that it's going to take a year or two. Unfortunately, I agree with him. It's going to change the landscape for probably a year or two, but it's going to really depend a lot with landlords, suppliers, if they can pull together and understand that these little independents are so important to our economy. So crucial. We're the first, we provide the most jobs in California by far. And then number two, we provide the first entry job to most people, for most kids. They come to the restaurant industry and then they move on to other things. So it's going to be devastating for a while. Having said that, I think, as I've always been asked, hey, can a restaurateur open another restaurant? Of course you can, but it's just going to take that time to adjust and take time for people to recover. I feel really bad again for the guys that just opened. I don't think they're going to survive. If they do, the only way they're going to really move on forward is if we can work out a deal with the landlords, talk to the purveyors, and say, hey, listen, we gotta just get through the next year. And of course, they're going to look at us saying, you guys are maybe making money. What they don't see is the fact that maybe we're making money, but we got to recover for the 2 months that we didn't make any money. And those are the problems we're having, that balance. I think it's going to be years from now, but it'll be back to, if nothing else happened, if nothing else happens to the economy, I think we'll pivot. We're going to get some great restaurateurs back. The chefs cannot do, they cannot do anything. That sounds terrible. If you have the restaurant bug, it's impossible to get rid of it. You will be back. It's just even going to come back in a new form. And I think a lot of them are going to just, let's not go high end.
You're right.
Maybe let's go here, let's go there. But I think it's going to be a lot of changes, but I think we'll come back. But 100% agree with David. It will change. The dynamics will change. But give it a year or two. I think we'll be breathing again, and people will start, coming back.
Yeah. Let's definitely hope so. Let's definitely hope so, because you're right. I think chefs, like a lot of creative types, it's in their blood. It's not like all of a sudden they just don't want to cook anymore and don't want to create anymore. So, all right, let me end with this question to both of you then. What do you want people to know out there about the restaurant, the struggle that the restaurant business is going through, and what can they do to help?
The number one thing, obviously, from an individual, just come out and order takeout, do practice best social distancing and all that, be safe and all that. But ordering takeout is the one probably best way to keep us all afloat. The other part is, if you're in a position to where you're in an industry or, either selfish or your industry that you're doing much better, you're not being affected, maybe underwrite some, meals for the churches or for the hospitals that do need that, because there's no fundraising going on right now at all, because there's no events. So the only way we can do it is by people saying, hey, can we donate this or donate that? So the masks, the food, anything you can think of, that'd be ideal. I do have one other crazy one that you got to see this.
Oh, it's a shield.
So that's another friend of mine, a school teacher from Garden Grove, is making that out of the 3D printer and donating them to the nurses.
Wow.
But this is where, again, everybody's doing what they can, whether it's making the mask, the food, or right now we're getting ready to get some hand sanitizers. These are all the things that you can find. So whatever we can network and find, we'll get them to the people that need them.
That's a great point, Wing, about companies that may still be doing okay and they have their funds that they were going to spend on other charitable activities or events, galas, all those things that we used to go to. If that fund is still there, they should use it towards something else that's charitable, like feeding healthcare workers or a shelter or something. So I think that's great practical advice. Ed, do you have anything else you want to add?
Besides supporting the independent, I think people don't realize, even if it's a chain restaurant, the employees are local, the money stays locally. People forget, I don't know, I don't want to mention it, but for instance, Pizza Hut, they donated like 1,000 pizza. These guys, all the employees are still local. It might be a big company, but the employees are local. The franchisee, chances are he's local. I mean, he's from California probably because he owns the restaurants here. So people forget that, and they've been doing their job too. Whether it's Subways, Pizza Hut, they're dropping tons of food all the time. It's not just the independent doing. All of us are here together as a whole industry. So people forget. When I tell people, even go to McDonald's. Why would I eat at McDonald's? Well, they're still got employees that need jobs. The GM, the district manager, these guys are all local. They're not coming from somewhere else. They all live in Orange County. So,
right. Good point, Ed.
I try to do my best to spread the love. Go to Starbucks or go to Pete's or go to Find an Independent. Everybody's this in the same boat, and I got to tell you, they're all stepping up and donating a product. Just that they don't get a lot of publicity. Unfortunately, they don't get all that. The accolades, because everybody goes, "Oh, they're a big chain and they don't need the money." They're down. Schools are down. Everybody's down.
I mean, everyone's down. Everyone's down. And so that's why this is a huge lesson in the fact that we are all connected.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, we're all the same. And we all want the same things, or we all need the same things. So therefore, we have to come together as humans to help each other out in this time of crisis. Hey guys, I love you both, and I miss seeing your faces, and I miss coming to your restaurants, and I hope I will be able to soon. But until then, let's all order takeout, support these restaurants, and we're going to get through this. All right. So I might check in with you guys a little later on to see how you're doing, to get an update, but keep up the great work. And it's amazing what you guys are trying to do for the community. So thank you.
Nate. All right. See you soon.
Okay. Take care. All right. Bye-bye. Okay. So obviously we are all going through a lot of struggle, a lot of uncertainty, but hopefully listening and hearing and watching Wing and Ed talk about their efforts in the restaurant industry and trying to help each other. And then earlier, my friend Peri trying to help, within the fashion industry, trying to provide masks. This just goes to show that we're all in it together, right? We got to come together as a community, as a human race, to help each other during this unprecedented time. That's the only way we're all going to get through it, is to come together and to support each other in whatever way that is. It doesn't mean you have to go out and make masks. It just means make a phone call. Just give something of yourself to one another. That's going to help us get through this. I know it's not easy. And keeping our mental health in check is something that really matters. So do whatever you can to keep going in a positive direction. You're going to have the dips. I do all the time, but we got to keep it together. I'll give you another example of how I'm trying to lighten things up. So before on the show, I actually would put a coffee mug behind me on the shelf, just because I thought, it's got to look neat, whatever. But usually my Godzilla is here on the shelf. And there he is right now. You can see, right? Those of you who are watching video. This is a original Godzilla toy that I got when I was working in Tokyo for CNN, and I interviewed Toho, which is the film production company that made all the Godzilla movies. And I bought this guy because I thought he was so cool. And he was always on my shelf, but I thought, I have to have a much more professional background. Well, when all this happened, I was like, forget that. I'm putting him back up here. And if anybody can see him and it brings a smile to your face, then great. And for me, I look at it as Godzilla's watching over me now. He's protecting me. So it makes me smile a little bit. So that's why he's back there now. He's going to stay there. He's part of my background. So that's just a little thing I'm doing now, just to liven things up a little bit. Let's thank the healthcare workers when you can. Give them your love, give them your support, because they are on the front lines doing heroic work, as well as first responders, as well as those who are working the grocery stores, delivery people, the mailman and woman. All of these folks are keeping things going for our sake. And so let's do our part to show our support and also staying safe and being cautious. I think that's really, really important. And finally, you guys, if you like the show, please just give us some support by subscribing on YouTube to the Mei Lee Show channel. Give us some reviews, hopefully good ones, on the podcast platforms, whatever you use, whether that be iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're on all of them. If you could just throw us some love and support, that would be great, because, this podcast is still pretty new. And we started before the crisis started. And our audience is growing, which is great. And the comments we're getting are amazing. And I'm so happy that this is serving a purpose. But we would love more support. We would love to continue growing because, numbers matter. And the more people hear about us, the more people like it, the more that it'll inspire me and the team to keep going. Because, I'm just going to be totally frank with you guys. This is a project that makes no money. We don't make money on this show right now because we're so new. And so we're kind of doing this out of our own pockets and as a service for now. Of course, the hope was in the beginning that eventually when we grew a big enough audience that hopefully this would, take us to a different level. But right now, Benny, Luo, and I decided let's just keep going because it's important. It's important that we provide this information. It's important that we be this representation of Asians and issues that matter. So as hard as it is, we're just going to keep going. But that's why I'm asking you guys to support us in the way you can, which is by sharing the show, giving us some reviews, and also subscribing to the channel. So that's the best way you can give us some love now. And I would really appreciate it. All right. So listen, stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy. And until next time, really take care. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.